Well, Jeff Jarvis, I'm really excited to be able to ask you some questions for my Dutch listeners. We're from Holland, and I work for a lot of realtors back there. And actually, I used the part of your book in the What Would Google Do, even though the situation in Holland is completely different compared to here in the States. But I know you have recently published a new book. Can you tell me a little bit more about what the book is about?
Public parts is about the value of publicness, especially in Europe and the US. The internet has caused a lot of fear about privacy. And privacy is important, it needs protection, but I think it has lots of protectors. And what we also have to do, though, is recognize that the internet is a tool that enables each of us to be public and to create a public and to connect with people. And I don't want to lose that power. So Public Parts really examines the value of publicness and then looks at how to use that value in our personal lives, in companies, and in government.
Thank you. And you also mentioned that sharing is so extremely important today. And we all talk about the social media, of course. But what's your opinion on sharing and what we have to look after?
Well, I think the fact that 800 million people have joined Facebook, and there's some reports I saw just today that it may hit 1 billion soon, later this year. Yeah. That is not because there's 800 million people who are all drunk or stupid. They're there for a reason, and the reason is to share. And the reason they share is they connect with other people, and we're social. So I think that we have to look at what people are actually doing already in Facebook and Twitter and blogs and Google Plus now, and sharing has a lot of benefits. Now it's up to you to decide what to share and what not to share. That is your choice and should remain your choice, and that's where privacy comes in. But I think you also have a chance to say that, gee, if I share this, I'm going to connect with other people with the same interest, I'm going to help somebody else, I'm going to have fun. All those reasons to share, I think, are very good. And the key reason to share is to create relationships. And if you're in your business, I think trying to create relationships with people and having a relationship of trust with people is core to doing your business well, and these tools enable that.
On stage, you also mentioned it's people, relationships, and conversation, and sharing content. Then one of the people from the audience asked, well, we are realtors, we are so extremely busy, where could we find the time to make all those content? Can you react on that again?
Yeah, sharing is not necessarily about publishing and writing and doing all that. It's just literally sharing. It's saying, well, I found a new restaurant. I learned something new today. I have a question. I solved somebody's problem. It's just conversation. If you have time to talk with people, you have time to talk with them online. And I think that we don't need to make it too complicated. You don't need to build tools. The tools already exist. Just use those tools to connect with people. It's fun. It's part of human life. And I think if you can't make time for that, then there's something wrong with your life.
And then one last thing, the example you gave on stage was that you are a journalist, or you're used to publishing, and you had at the beginning a different view on what people are doing on, like, for Facebook or on the other social media compared to your son. Can you repeat that once again?
My son Jake, who's a sophomore in university here, is my secret weapon in all this because he understands it in different ways. And I took him along when I interviewed Mark Zuckerberg for the book, because Mark is one of my son's heroes. And on the way there, Jake said, you know, I think that the Facebook wall is something entirely new. Now, Zuckerberg himself actually disagreed and said, no, we've always signaled, we've always shared things in some way or another. But I side with my son here, because Jake said that, well, no, what we're really doing is having a conversation in public, and that's new. And I realized at that moment that I didn't see the wall that way. I saw the wall, like a media guy, as a place to publish or broadcast content. Well, it's also, and it's really, a place to have conversations. And content is part of that exchange that we have. And conversations become content. And so we have to look at this world differently from our old world, and that's hard to do.
It's extremely hard to do for a lot of people, and can we say that it's for older people, older generation, more difficult to change the view?
This hair is prematurely gray, but I am over 50, and I did learn this stuff. And no, I actually think that we have a saying in American English about old farts who don't change. Well, there's a lot of young farts out there too, who kind of arrive in this world and say, don't change it. So I don't think it has anything to do with age. I really don't. I think it's only a matter of openness.
Because you mentioned earlier, change is from always. And do you really think that people has to change to survive?
Yes, I think we've always had some change. I think we're going through a period of huge change right now, akin to the creation of the Gutenberg press. And until recently, I've thought that change is happening very quickly. But I'd ask you to think about the idea that it's happening actually very slowly, and that we're only at the bare beginning of it. There's a lot more change to come.
Thank you. Can I ask one last question then? Not only for realtors, but for entrepreneurs in Holland. Do you have one last golden tip for them?
Find a problem and solve it. In change and in fear, find opportunity.
Thank you so much. Jeff Jarvis.